Okay, this chapter is about a group policy and group policy object. Uh, what is group policy? Why do we need a group policy? Let's say that you are working in a company and you want each computer in the company, each user when they open their computer, when they log in, then they will get the intranet or the website of the organization. Okay, and you want to deny them access to, let's say, USB drive. Okay, how do you do this? The best practice is to use a group policy. You don't have to go to each user or each computer and configure these options. You can do this through the group policy. Okay, also you can use group policy to restrict access. You can use it to grant access, you can use it to restrict access, to use at the user level and computer level. Okay, the GPO or group policy object, they are by definition administrative templates they are administrative templates that enable system administrators to configure what users can and cannot do on computers, peripherals devices, network applications across the organization's network. And by default, the GPOs are stored in the organization network, and they are configured. They are stored in the Windows sysvol. This is the the path. Okay, slash policies. So this is the path where they are stored. Okay, and then they need to be shareable. Okay, as you can see here, this is where they are stored under policies. See here on top. Okay. How do we access the group policy management console? You can go click on tools after you add source. After you have installed your Windows server, then and you are a domain controller, then you go to tools and then choose from there. You can choose group policy management. Another way to do that is you can go to administrative tools in the start menu, and then you can click, you can access it. So this is another way to do it. From the start button, start menu, then you can select Windows administrative tools, and then you can select Windows group policy management. Group policy management. The way we do it in the lab is we will go to tools, and then from tools we choose group policy management. You can run it also from the console if you type the command gpmc.msc. You need to know this command, please, for the exam. Okay. From the server manager, in the start menu, you can do it. You can go to the start button and then select server manager, and then you go to tools and select group policy management. This is what I told you now about the practical, which is easy actually. Okay. Now the GPO, the group policy object configuration values. GPOs are administrative templates. They are configured by system administrators. So you can set up the values, okay, that determine the applicability of the policy. And this is equivalent to a registry keys in the registry editor. And when you put enable or disable, it will change the registry key in the registry editor for the Windows. So GPO settings can be configured at certain values which affect both users and computers. So you have to be careful when working with group policy objects. There are three values for the GPO. It can be either not configured, and this is the default. So the registry value has not been changed. You have enabled GPO. Here, the GPO is enabled and the registry value is set to 0x1. It is hexadecimal number. And then disable, it means that configure setting that indicates that a GPO is disabled and the registry value is 0x0. Please know these values. Okay. To process GPO, it depends on the type of the GPO because the GPO are applied at the user and computer levels. This means that these things can be enforced and as such users cannot change them. So you can have GPO to configure on local computer but, using the locally group policy editor, and you can have it on the domain controller, which is using the group policy management. GPM means group policy management console. Okay. Now this is how the GPO processing takes place in the following order. For local, indicates GPOs that are applied to the computer local policy for each user. Site, so this is the order: local, site, domain, and then OUs. This is the order of the way they are applied. Okay, you have to remember this LSDO. This is the processing order of the GPO. LSDO: L local, S site, D domain, O OU. Processing GPOs also, if you are from the computer perspective, the GPO is applied in the following two ways. The local computer, okay, whatever is configured in the local, and then the domain computer, the GPOs that are configured on the domain controller. Okay. Now please remember that GPOs assigned to user accounts are applied when the user logs on, and GPOs assigned to computer account, they are applied when the computer is turned on. Please always remember these two facts, very important facts. All right. How do you edit the GPO? We have the local group policy editor, okay, and also in the group in the domain controller, you can click on the GPO and edit it. Okay. So we have the local group policy editor, where the system admin can configure local GPOs to enable, disable settings. Okay. And in the domain, you can use the group policy management console. Okay. But group policy management, you will always will only be available if you install the Active Directory. Okay. However, the local group policy editor is found by default on Windows Server, even if you are not a domain. All right. So once you have completed configuring the GPOs, you can enforce the GPOs on your local server as follows. You can do press the Windows key plus run to open the run dialog, and then you can enter this command gp update, which is gp and group policy update / force, okay, to force the changes. Okay, then you will get this message. If everything is okay, you will get group policy update has completed successfully. Okay, this is the end of this week 8. Now we will do week 9. Okay. I will stop, see if you have any question to answer. In chapter 9 or week 9, we will continue our discussion about group policy, and we will be showing you some examples. And you need to know that there are two types of configuration policies that you can implement in the GPO. There is something called user configuration and there is computer configuration policy. This is the classification to make it easy for you to understand the group policy and apply it. The computer configuration, okay, GPOs assigned to the computer, they are only effective when you switch on the computer, when you turn it on. Then they are applied. Okay, even if nobody is logged onto the computer. This applicable to you local computer and domain joint computers. Okay, how do we set it using the command? We can press Windows key plus run R. Okay, and then in the run dialog box, enter gpedit.msc. Okay, and then you can right click the domain and select create a GPO in the domain. This is what you have done in the lab. Okay, so how do we do this? You right click and then you choose a new GPO and then you give it a name and right click and edit, and then you give the options that you want to give to this group policy management. You can choose either it is a computer configuration policies or it is a user configuration policy. Okay, this is the user configuration policy. On the other hand, user configuration policy, we said that it will become effective. These policies will become applied and effective when the user log on. Okay, and these are the options under user configuration. You can see here we have policies. Under policies, we have software settings, Windows settings. We have also preferences. Okay, all right. For the user configuration policy, you right click the recently created GPO and select enforce. This is what we have done. Yani this is how you enforce it after you have created it. Yeah, you are doing this in the lab, but I will explain to you some of the theory information related to this topic. You can rename the administrator account using, this is a policy to rename the administrator account for security reasons. You do this from the computer configuration. Remember that. You find it under computer configuration. So you go to computer configuration, policies, Windows settings, security settings, local policies, security options, and then you double click account and then rename administrator account. Okay, and then you define this policy setting and then enter the new name that you want to use for the administrator account. Why we do this? For security. Because if someone wants to hack into the domain, the first thing they come to their mind is to hack to the administrator account. So if you rename the administrator account, then this will trick the hacker. Why? Because securing the network services in particular and the whole network is one of the organization's highest highest priority. Another group policy also is to rename the guest account also for the same reason. It is also under computer configuration. You can find it in this link. Okay, you double click and then rename guest account. Right, same thing, the same reason for security. If I want to block some accounts, to block the Microsoft account using GPO, you can do it also from computer configuration and then double click account and then block Microsoft account, and then you click on define and then you can select users cannot add or log on with Microsoft account from the drop down combo list. Okay, and then you click OK to save. But also there are some settings under user, such as to prohibit access to the control panel and PC settings. To do that, you can create a new GPO or the same GPO, but then you can edit it and then you go to user configuration this time, policies, administrative templates, and control panel. Double click on prohibit access to the control panel and PC settings, and then you can enable it. So this policy is being applied to the user when he logs on again. All right, this is very good. You don't want the user to change the control settings or the control panel and settings. Okay, the last slide. The last slide here is denying access to removable storage classes. Yani like you don't want the user to have access to a flash drive. You can do this from the user configuration. The same link here, and then you click on the removable storage and then click on deny all access and then enable. All right. So these are the examples for group policy object, and this is week 9. Just hold on. This chapter we are going to study the file sharing. Okay. You need to design your file sharing strategy. Okay, and it's always good to share user files on a shared server drives when needed in your domain. Why? To enable users to collaborate on projects by sharing files, to keep up documents from to more easily, to protect them by controlling access to the documents, to reduce the number of share needed, uh, to prevent the need to share access to workstations, and it is easier to back up. All right. Also, to monitor user storage habits and regulate their disk space consumption, and to insulate users from the sharing permissions assignment trap. A well best practice design sharing strategy provides each user with three resources. Private storage space, we call this home folder. Public storage space, where each user can store files that he or she wants to colleague to be able to access, and then access to a shared workspace for communal and collaborative documents. Controlling access, okay, just hold on please. وعليكم السلام، اهلا، كيف حالك؟ Okay, Mariam. Sorry, so many things happening here. Okay, so there is a common rule in assigning sharing and privileges. It says least privilege. So this means that users should have only the privilege that they actually need to perform their task and no more. And users should have complete access and control of their own files and no privileges to other private files. Okay, so again, let's start from the beginning. Here in this chapter, we are going to discuss configuring file and share access. We are going to discuss how to configure the file and share, how to design file sharing strategy, creating folder shares, configuring volume shadows, and configuring the quotas. Why do we need to store files on a shared server drive? Because it is enabling the users to collaborate in their project by sharing files. It will make backup more easy and to protect company information by controlling access to documents and to reduce the number of shares needed on the network, also for security reasons. Arranging the share, you need to make sure that you are following or having three share folders. One is first resource is a private storage space such as a home folder. Here, the user has exclusive access to his private storage space. We have a public storage space. Each user can store files that he or she wants colleagues to be able to access. The third one is access to a shared workspace. This is for communal and collaborative documents, like for people inside your, like a team or a project. The common rule for controlling access or the golden rule is called least privileges. This states that users should have only the privileges they need to perform their required tasks, no more than that. So you should have complete access and control of their own files, but no privileges to other people's private files. Okay, this is common sense. Always assign permissions to security groups, not to individuals. Okay, and utilize domain locally groups and global or universal groups to simplify administration of permissions. Sometimes you can use the deny access NTFS permission to override assigned permission. So there are some exceptions. Also, there is a good feature in Windows in networking and Windows Server. You can map drive. Okay, and we will do this in the lab. I think in your lab you have done it in your section. Here you can folder redirection settings in group policy can be used to map each user's document folder to his or home or her home folder. Okay, so this enables the user to work with their files without ever knowing they are stored on a network drive. And he will see like he will see a logical drive letter like F colon, but actually this app is actually a network file, a shared network folder. Uh, Before you create folder shares, you need to know that shares must be created in order for network users to be able to access the disk on the server. But you need to determine what folders you want to share, what name you will give to the share, because the name of the share could be different than the actual name of the folder. And then you need to decide what permissions you will grant the user to the share and what offline file settings you will use for the share. Okay, offline files meaning that you want them to access the file even if they are not connected to the share. You can share your own folder. To do that, you just right click and send and then share with and then specify the people whom you want to access. Or you can use sharing tab from the folder permission from folder properties sheet. Here you can have more control. Okay, as you can see here, file sharing. We have done this in the lab, so I will just go to the important theory part. These are the types of folder shares. We have SMT. This is used by all versions of Windows, and this requires the file server to roll service. And then we have NFS. This is used in Unix and Linux. And this one requires the NFS role service. Please remember these two parts. Okay, this is the practical part covered in the practical. Yeah, these are all in the lab. Explained how to do that. You will be doing this. I have already done this for my class, but you can also practice with that.